33-story hotel and condo project.
I'd probably be
Okay,
like
like
that.
stop, tap.
This is a plan by the community for the community.
This one here, you showed me.
No problem, Ken. Thanks for having me.
It's Kent Mulgat for KelownaNow. And we're joined by Seamus O'Regan, the Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Great
Thanks
to
for
see
coming
you.
in.
Oh, it's good to be here.
So yeah, during your first stint as an MP to pick up a portfolio like that, it's quite a coup. Obviously, people have some faith in you.
It was an honor. Yeah. I mean, I think I was 2 years as a member of Parliament, and I learned a heck of a lot about the responsibilities of being a member of Parliament. And I had a lot to prove as a new MP to the people who elected me. So yeah, I mean, then after 2 years, so this time last year, the Prime Minister said, "I'd like you to join as Veterans Affairs Minister," and I said, "Absolutely."
And it's nice for you to be coming into a portfolio where we saw these veterans offices closing down. The Liberals came in, your party, and opened a bunch up. So you're kind of the good news minister. That must be nice.
Yeah, but it's a controversial post, and there are a lot of challenges and a lot of demands. And there are a number of veterans, as you hear about in the news all the time, who are still very unhappy with how they've received services. I think the good news is that there are an awful lot that are happy or at least content. Just for the people who are watching, just so you have some idea. I mean, we have about 658,000 veterans in Canada, so it's a lot of people. About 180,000 of them are clients of Veterans Affairs Canada. So most of them, 500,000, get their pension and they're fine. They're good. Everything's good. 180,000 of them are clients of ours, which means that we can provide for older veterans. We shovel driveways in winter, we mow their lawn, we provide some services to them. But of those, there are about 60,000 who receive some sort of benefit from us for an injury, and for most of those, it's hearing or knees, something like that. It's 13,000 veterans who are eligible for income support. Those are the ones who are most in need. Those are the ones who, for at least part of the year aren't able to work because they have a mental or physical injury as a result of their service. And that's where we've been, concentrating an awful lot of our time.
And we hear more now than we did in previous decades about post-traumatic stress.
Yes.
So of that 13,000, are a good proportion of those people who are affected by that?
Yes, indeed. And in fact, when we developed our Pension for Life, which was a key part of our platform, very important to a lot of MPs who are veterans like Steve Scher here. I mean, Steve was a big proponent of this. We had to bring back a monthly pension, and we brought back a monthly tax-free pension. I announced it in December. But we changed it from the pension that people received before, so that it involves a lot more vocational rehabilitation. It involves a lot more concentration on PTSD and mental health. We updated what had been a 100-year-old pension system for the 21st century because we know a lot more.
Right.
We have a responsibility now. We know a lot more about mental health. We understand that 5, 10, 15 years after you leave service, you may be hit by PTSD.
Right.
So we want people to know, okay, so if you have to leave work in order to get well, we'll cover you financially. We'll look after you until you're able to get well. Good news is most times people can get well. Most times we're able to treat people, which is great. And we're able to put them back to work if that works for them. Now for some, going back to work ain't going to happen. They just are not able, either physically or mentally. So we will look after them. We will look after them for life.
You mentioned off the top how many, such a big chunk, just get their
pension and they're good.
Pension and they're done. But with what we know now, some number of those people probably aren't.
Yeah, I mean, of the clients that are with Veterans Affairs, we like keeping in touch with them, just to make sure. One of the big benefits, aside from receiving the financial stability of receiving a tax-free monthly pension for life, is that every month we're kind of in touch with you. We know where you live. We know where to send the check. You're in touch with somebody on our side, and we can kind of just check in with you, see how you're doing, just to make sure that, mentally are you all right, as well as physically. Right. That's very important. As I said, I mean, sometimes PTSD takes hold down the road, and sometimes the person themselves, may feel that they're doing just fine, and it's somebody who's in touch with them and a professional from VAC, from Veterans Affairs Canada, who can say, I'm picking up things here. I'm going to check a little further. That's really important.
And so you have town halls from time to time?
I myself have done about 40 something, I think, since January.
So what do you hear? Well, what's the bad stuff? What do they get on your case for?
Backlog. backlog is a big issue that we're tackling head on. Ironically, because we've put out a lot of new benefits and services since we've got in, $10 billion new benefits and services since we got in. 3.6 billion of that is for pension for life, but $10 billion. So what's happened is a lot of veterans have been burned. All they've seen is cuts or cuts to benefits, cuts to services, lump sum, and kind of let go. And then we got in and they're like, are they really going to do this? Well, now time has passed and they know that we are doing it. So there's been an uptick in demand on us. We're getting more phone calls, more inquiries. That's a good thing because that means more people know that those benefits and services are out there and they want to avail of them. So that's good. The problem is the backlog increased. So in the last budget, we asked for another $42 million to help us deal with that backlog. And we're getting there. But it's very frustrating for me when I'm at a town hall and I listen to somebody or a family member, and I'll hear it tonight, say, I've been waiting 18 months for a benefit or service that I deserve, and they do deserve it. And that's very frustrating, and I'm an impatient guy. We're working at it.
So these are people that are applying for benefits or changes to their benefits.
Yes.
And they go through the process and submit their application, and then just time is passing?
Time is passing. I mean, we're doing an awful lot to make sure that we're digitizing a lot of our work. We're doing some really, I think, internally progressive stuff, which, what does that mean until it makes people's lives better? But we're getting there. We're making some really strong headway in making these things faster. We're doing things like MyVac, which is My Veterans Affairs Canada, which is an app. We've seen a huge uptick on that because people realize if they use the app, they can get those services and benefits a lot sooner than they were getting them before. And we want to make it easier for that when people leave military service and they make that transition to the life as a veteran, that it's not as dramatic as it is right now for a lot of people. It can be very abrupt. My brother is a lieutenant commander in the Navy. He was in charge of the Naval Fleet School, so he dealt a lot in Esquimalt with human resource issues out there. And about a year and a half ago, before I was minister, said to me, man, we have got to get better at this. And the Prime Minister, when he sat me down and said, I'm making you Minister of Veterans Affairs, said, this is something that you have to work on. I'm telling you to work on. It's in my mandate letter. We got to close the seam, as we call it, so that it's almost seamless. That when you leave D&D, you leave the Canadian Armed Forces, and you move into Veterans Affairs Canada, that it is as seamless as we can possibly make it, and to ease that transition, because transition's tough for people. We all know that. We all know in our own lives when we move from one job, we get let go. In between period while you're looking for another job, man, that's a hugely anxiety-inducing time. It was for me, hugely, and anything that we can do to ease that is just going to help people out. Because if you do suffer from something like PTSD or whatever, anxiety and depression can be a trigger, and so we just gotta really work on that, on closing that seam to make sure that transition's easier.
Before we forget, so there's a town hall tonight in Kelowna.
5:30 to 7:30 at the Legion
Hall in Kelowna.
In Kelowna, and we invite veterans, we invite members of family members, general public. We invite anybody to come, and we get to the questions as soon as we can. There is an awful lot that we've been doing. Like I said, $10 billion new benefits and services, an awful lot, and that can be overwhelming for some people. And trust me, social media isn't the best place to discuss these things because things can get very heightened and emotional. Yeah. So it's a good opportunity for us to walk through with people and then take their questions directly.
You mentioned digitization, and I hope I don't upset veterans by asking, but do we really need, the Liberals reopened these offices, but I wonder with our current state of technology, is it really necessary to have bricks and mortar offices here and there? What's the value?
Yeah, there's great value in it. Steve Furr, who, the MP here, fought really hard to make sure that the Kelowna office was opened. And I'm awfully glad that was one of the 9 that we reopened that had been closed. We heard from veterans. That's who we're there to serve, and veterans said we want the offices open. So that's first and foremost. You listen to veterans and find out what their needs are. It's more complex than people may think. You might make the assumption that everybody who's a newer veteran, a younger veteran, let's say, will be online, and the older veterans perhaps like to be able to talk to somebody in person. Not necessarily the case. It really depends on the individual. Some younger veterans don't like doing things online, but have a relationship with somebody at VAC that they like seeing, that they take great comfort in sitting down with somebody and talking to them. Look, we want to be available to whatever works. Whatever works to get people well.
And a lot of people obviously really value that real.
Yes, they do.
Face-to-face.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
So, switching gears completely, we just had Pride Week here.
Yeah,
In,
good on you.
And we had carrying the flag a gay man from Syria who had to get out of a Middle Eastern country
Yeah.
alive
Yeah.
and to carry the flag. So that was pretty interesting. But you came out really late in life, which I think is interesting to people as if we can sort of carry some of the thoughts of Pride Week forward. What was it like for you so much later in life, like mid-30s,
36, I think, yeah.
to finally say to the world, this is me?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's when I was ready to do it. I mean, I thought an awful lot about it. I probably knew earlier, but yeah, I mean, it took meeting the right guy, and I went, oh yeah, okay, I'm gay.
Yeah.
And that's when I met my husband. So, you kind of, yeah, I think in hindsight, I think it was tougher than I thought it was. And it probably put me in a position where I was drinking too much to kind of deal with that.
Right. Was it partly to do with the fact that you were a high-profile person? People would.
No, I mean, I was lucky. Where I worked, they couldn't have given one sweet fig. Like they did not care. I mean, Canada AM and CTV that was never an issue. It was just me having to deal with it and knowing for sure that it was where I was happy. And I grew up in a different age. I mean, I look at kids now. I mean, they know it's so fluid. They don't care. I mean, but there was more weight on it. In the 80s and the 90s when I grew up, it was a different time, and it was a time of great transition, and I'm very grateful to it. When I came out, it was far easier. And I look back in my teen years and in my 20s, and there were people there who were on the vanguard, and they were outliers. I really look up to Scott Bryson, who's president and treasury board, and my cabinet colleague who came out early as a huge public figure in politics. I mean, a guy who, was running for the leadership of the PC party at the time. And, I look up to Scott tremendously. For me personally, he broke down a lot of barriers. And seeing Scott come out and Scott get married was a big part of my ability to come out and be happy.
Right.
So
there
are people like that. I think everybody has somebody like that, but I really look up to people who, when it wasn't as cool, did that because they paved the way for people like me.
How does it feel, though, to be out in that way as compared to before? Do you have any advice to someone who's still maybe not at the...
I think I could take advice from young people today.
You're not so much giving advice on that.
No, I mean, I think, we are lucky to live in this country, as that guy from Syria could tell you, and we are lucky to live in this time. In a time when you can be who you want to be. For me, this has always been an issue of freedom. To be free to love who you want to love.
Yeah.
Why should the government tell me who I can and cannot love? This, to me, is an issue of liberty and freedom. And I value those things. So, the government shouldn't be able to tell me who I can't live with and who I can't, bequeath my will to, or share my pension with, or whatever the case may be.
Is there still any work to be done there about the transfer of money from one family member to another marriage? Are there still any sort of vestiges of a less tolerant time that need to be ironed out?
I always say that the biggest thing that's for LGBTQ, for that agenda right now is vigilance in this country more than anything. Because we saw these rights happen so quickly, let's not kid ourselves. The rights that are given can also sometimes be taken away.
Right.
And I maintain vigilance. I don't take anything for granted. But right now, I mean, for me, this is an issue of freedom.
Right. Okay. Switching gears once more.
You're good at this.
That 20. Well, when the interview's going nowhere, you just no. So that 2015 election where you got elected, and Stephen Fuhr got elected, the funny thing is, I ran into Stephen Fuhr before the election. And
Yeah.
He said, you don't have a chance. All right. I'm really sorry, but you don't have a chance here. So that goes to show you what a good prognosticator I am. 'Cause he won.
Yes, he did.
So, but this was a time when everyone was loving Trudeau, right? So, but now the polls, the shine is worn off a little. Real government starts to
and
pick
we've
up
been
some
in power,
baggage,
absolutely.
Right? And so now it's kind of nip and tuck, for this next election. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm very proud. I think we've been a very progressive and active government. I think we've been a very progressive, active, and fair government. I think we've been the most transparent government that the country perhaps has ever seen. So yeah, it means you're out there warts and all. That means that we live up to the things that we've done well, and we have also to talk about the things that we're still working on. But you know, I wear my heart on my sleeve on that. I'm very proud of this government. I'm very, very happy to work with this Prime Minister. You know, he personally is a big reason why I decided to make the leap to run. I'm very proud of guys like Steve. I look at our caucus, and you know, I'll never forget the first time I walked in that caucus room. The Prime Minister attracted a lot of really good people, a lot of talented, good people from across the country. And you look at it, the biggest freshman class that this country's ever seen. We went from a distant third place to a majority government. So a lot of people who really, you know, are in it for all the right reasons. And Steve's one of the top. I mean, you know, as soon as I became Veterans Affairs Minister, he's like, you're coming to Kelowna, you're coming to Kelowna.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's people that I want you to meet there. And so when I was coming out from Nanaimo for cabinet retreat, it was like, I'm doing it, I'll be out there. And
Right.
so, you know, I'm delighted to do the town hall tonight. We, you know, we hold ourselves accountable. We've done more town halls and meetings than any other Prime Minister or any other government. And we'll keep doing it. I mean, that's how you stay on your toes. You
But
know,
you've got some work to do, right? It's not like there was this upswing in 2015, and now it's you know.
Yeah, now we've been government. Now we've been government. But it's also a time to say, you know, this is what we've done. And you know, I look particularly at our record on Veterans Affairs, and I'm proud to go out there and run on that. I look at what I've done for my province and as a member of Parliament, and I'm proud of that. And you know, it's a matter of you go out there, you remind people of all the things you've done. Because, you know, if you leave it to your opponents and if you leave it to the media sometimes, because obviously they want to create controversy or at least show some conflict, because it's interesting.
Did you have some conflict with this interview because we're flat?
That's your job, man. That's your job. But that means my job is to go out there and say, this is what we've done. And you know, and then people will make judgment on that.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for coming in. Really good talking to you.
Nice talking to you.
Burned through way over 10 minutes. Really good. It was fantastic. We talked forever.
So did this work or didn't it work? You're giving me mixed messages.
No, I think it was good. I think it was good.
Okay.
It was good.
They'll be the judge.
Yeah. Thank you for watching Kelowna Now.